Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 675. I had the black pieces. My opponent played e4. I went with e6, the French defense. So we had a couple of normal moves, d4, d5, and then he plays e takes d5, the exchange variation. You can see that's the fourth choice here, although I've seen it a lot. It's fairly popular if white wants to avoid all the theory of the main lines, but it's thought to be pretty equal for black, so it's not really challenging. So really, if you're white, you should play one of these other moves to try and get the best game, try and get the most out of the opening. So this is going for more or less just an equal position. Now, every other time I've faced this, I've seen either knight f3 or bishop d3, the top two choices here. And these are moves that make a lot of sense. You know, there's already pawns have been placed in the center. There's already one open line. It makes sense to go ahead and start developing your pieces. And you have a couple of good moves here that you can play without making a commitment to the c-pawn. But my opponent played c4 here. This is another line, and kind of interesting, and I didn't react in the best way. So the main move here is knight f6, and just defending that pawn with the knight. It's good. This is different than, say, the Marshall defense to the Queen's Gambit, because if white takes, which is not particularly good here, you take back with the knight, and there's no other pawn that can chase that knight away. So this just helps black's development, that exchange. So anyway, white ignores that possibility and keeps developing. And black can develop his dark squared bishop either to b4 or to e7. And after a few more moves, we get pretty normal looking position. Black gets to castle, white can develop his bishop, and yeah, it seems like it's an okay position for both sides. So that'd be the normal way of playing it. Here in this position I played, yeah, c6. You see that's a pretty rare move. And he went knight f3, and we're basically out of the opening book at that point. So let's just look at this. He goes knight f3, I go knight f6, he goes knight c3, all these pretty normal developing moves. I play bishop b4, and he plays a3 here. So right here, I think my next move is a mistake. I should really take that knight off. Just bishop takes c3, grab that knight. The problem with the move I played, it doesn't show up for a few moves, but actually there's a weakness here now on d5. You would think that having played c6 and knight f6, it would be strong enough, but well, watch what happens. He kicks the bishop, so all these moves are with tempo. He kicks it again, drops back here, and then he pins the knight. And now this is a little bit awkward. He's actually threatening just to win a pawn there. Or to damage my pawn structure, because bishop takes knight, queen takes, and then he can win a pawn. Or if I take back with the pawn, then he's damaged my kingside pawn structure. So all this is a bit awkward. The chess engine says that the best way to play this, you know, I played knight bd7, trying to defend the knight and keeping my kingside pawn structure good. The chess engine says just go ahead and sack the pawn. If you castle here, he takes, kick the bishop now, bishop takes, queen takes, say. It's not the only line, but they all turn out to be somewhat similar. White gets the extra pawn, but black has a pretty good position. He's got the bishop pair, he's got open lines for that bishop. He just needs to develop this knight. The queen is already attacking this knight, so he's got some forcing moves. And if you look at white, white's got the two knights out, but the king is still stuck in the center. He's a couple moves away from castling. So let's see, the line continued like this. Knight, rook defending the knight, and then bishop to f4 hitting the rook. So anyway, black gets to develop with tempo and has enough compensation for the pawn. Anyway, something like that is pretty hard to calculate, but I think this also would lose material with best play from white and without as much compensation. So white should be you know, winning or have a very good game from this point forward, and he plays it correctly. So let's see, he takes for the first few moves here. He takes here. I throw in queen e7 check. I don't know if this really helped any. He just blocked it. It helped white develop it, actually, so probably it didn't help that much. But I was kind of fishing around looking for things to play, and I came up with this idea of h6. And now he makes the mistake of just taking here. I mean, this does win a pawn, but it gives me, again, lots of compensation. So The best way to do this is to just retreat the bishop. I could just play here. My idea was to kick the bishop again to unpin the knight so I can take back. And then now he takes. And at this point, you know, you have to give up. Well, I'm going to be down material, so I might as well grab the bishop. The material I'm going to be down is a pawn. But this has messed up my king side a lot more compared to the game. So this is just a better version. And also, he's not obliged to take the pawn. He could also just retreat the bishop here. And let's see, if I exchange off and then get the pawn back, this allows material equality. We have 3 to 3 over here and 2 to 2 and 1 to 1. But White's position is a lot better now because he's got this pressure over here. My king side is a bit destroyed. So either of those lines would be good for White. His mistake was in taking immediately and allowing me to grab the bishop. And then he grabs here with the check. So he's a pawn up at this point. And then he makes a second mistake in castling. What's funny is that in this position, after knight takes g5, White is 2 pawns up, right? I've got 2 against 3 over here and 2 against these 3. So White is 2 pawns up. The chess engine thinks that Black is at least equal here. So kind of funny. Yeah, I wouldn't assess it that way myself. I mean, I'm 2 pawns down. I do have a lot of activity, but it's hard to say that this activity is good enough for the it's really worth 2 pawns. That's a lot. Okay, so bishop f4 was the engine line chasing the knight back. Rook to c8. You can see that these pieces activate quickly with threats on these loose pieces in White's position, and then castle. And so I've got castled. I've got all my pieces out. My rooks are connected, and but I'm 2 pawns down, and White's just 1 move away from castling. The problem is there's actually threats in this position. He can't castle right away because rook takes knight followed by queen takes bishop. So you know the activity of those pieces is worth something, and the bishop on f4 is controlling the square, so the rook can't come over and defend it. So anyway, apparently an equal position, even though it's 2 pawns down. So anyway, I just he castled here. So I don't know why he didn't grab the pawn. That's kind of a strange decision. But he wanted to get out of the center, I guess, get away from some of those threats. So he castled, and now I play g4. He goes knight e5. And after this, I'm just winning. I didn't see all of the ideas here, but after the exchange, there's a double threat. And but there was also no good square for that knight to go to. So after g5, after he castled, and I got in g4, then actually Black is winning. And you might think, if you looked at the game, that I was winning just the whole rest of the way through. But there was one point where he had an amazing resource, so that's coming up. Yeah, this went down kind of quickly in the game, and I didn't realize all the threats. But it's a double threat. I'm threatening the knight over here, and I'm threatening checkmate on the H-file. That open H-file is come in handy. So he needed to play some defensive move. He chose G3 here, and he goes down a piece. And he's hoping to get some mileage out of chasing my queen. And right here, I just need to retreat my queen back to E5. And I am fine. I was really reluctant to put the queen here again because it's just asking for him to put a rook on the E-file. But I have time to castle, and apparently there's no good discovery after that. Say if he plays rook E1 and I castle, the bishop can move with a tempo, force me to move the queen, but it can't move with a check. And so that's key, so it won't lose the queen. So queen E5 is a safe move and the best square for the queen at this particular point. Yeah, like I said, I was a little reluctant to play that and put the king and the queen on that file. It's just asking for trouble. So I took this pawn over here, thinking, you know, might as well grab some more material and I would come back this way. But he can defend that pawn, and my queen is nearly trapped. Let's see, he started with bishop to c4. But the amazing move he had here, if you want to pause the video and think about this for a while, what is the one and only move here that saves the position for White? Okay, the move that white had here was queen to d6, and it's the only move that keeps white in the game, and the chess engine rates this position as a draw. There's a lot of ways that I could go wrong here. For example, if I were to play rook c8, he could just take that rook, and then bishop to b5 check is winning. The king is completely out of squares. And anyway, and if I block, then he's got the rook coming over with a check. So that's just a simple win for white. Let's see, to put up a stiffer resistance, let's see, I could try the other rook. There's rook to h6. And then again, bishop b5, piling up on this bishop here. If I take it, sacrificing another piece, then his rook c to e1. The rook comes in with check, and I have to start giving some material back, but this is the clever idea of rook h6. He takes here, and then I can bring the rook over and block. Rook takes, f takes, queen takes, and this is probably going to lead to a draw. And then the best response here by the chess engine, it says my best move here is to play king d8, because white was left actually with a slight edge in those other positions, or a winning edge in one case. So it would go like this: bishop takes g4, winning back a pawn, putting pressure on my bishop. Now I can play rook c8. Let's see, he can capture here. I can throw in rook takes c1. Let's see, bishop f5 check, and king to e8. And now he just gets a perpetual. He starts chasing my king around. So I've won some material, but but I won't win the game, and this will end in a draw. There's just checks, and there's no way to escape them. Wherever I go, I get checked. So anyway, that was his last chance to save the game. After queen takes a3, he needed to play queen to d6, the one and only move here. It defends this pawn, keeps my queen out of play, and just keeps me from castling. The queen on d6, I'm prevented from castling queen side by this rook, and prevented from castling king side by the queen. And the queen defends this pawn, so my queen can't easily get into the game. So pretty amazing move there. Anyway, he played bishop c4 with, I think, the idea of trying to trap my queen. I was a little bit worried about how I was going to get out of that box, but I just castled first. I wanted to get out of the center before things started to fall apart there. He went with queen to d4, and I brought my rook out here. I guess, I always thought that I had the queen takes b5 to escape and get my queen back into the game, but now it's a little bit tricky. If I were to play queen takes b5 at this point, he has bishop takes here, check, picking up the queen. So I need to find some other moves. Rook to c8. He went rook to c3, starting to chase my queen around. But now I can escape via a4. And I looked at this. It just turned out there was no way to trap the queen, although it did seem to be kind of close at the time. Let's see. He tried f3. I'm going to line up on this light squared diagonal and start making threats along here if I have enough time. So he's playing f3. It blocks that diagonal, also probably with the idea of opening up his rook against my knight there, and maybe getting some tactics against my king. Let's see, I played b5 here to push his bishop back and also provide some squares for my queen. My queen can now retreat this way, now that I've put this pawn forward. He dropped his bishop back to b3. Yeah, I bring my queen to a6, and he plays rook to e3, and I went queen to b6, and he resigned here. The queen's on a good diagonal now, and I don't know. I mean, his position is no worse than it was before, but I think he just sort of ran out of ideas. And of course, if we trade down to an endgame, it's an easily winning endgame for me. So he gave up at this point. Anyway, a pretty interesting game. Hope you guys like this. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.